Good afternoon. This is the April 10th Golf Committee meeting. The meeting has been called to order. We have said the Pledge of Allegiance. Quorum has been established. We have 7 of the 9 members here. Mr. Eichner and Mr. Hurley are not present, and I will read the meeting procedures. The governing board and its committees conduct all of their meetings in compliance with the Arizona Planned Community Association open meeting laws per ARS 33-1804 and in concert with Recreation Center's Sun City West bylaws, policies, and standing rules. Parliamentary procedures as outlined in the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order will also be followed in all meetings as appropriate, consistent with bylaw 3.07 and standing rules number 2 and 3. Thank you very much. We'll get on to our first order of business. The minutes of our last meeting, March 14th, were posted on the website, and I sent copies to everyone. Does anyone have any changes, additions, or deletions? Seeing none, the minutes will stand as presented and be placed on file. Thank you. On to our reports. A staff report. First thing, golf operations from Mr. Pat O'Hara.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. All right, how about this? Just a quick overview of what's been going on for the last 30 days or so. As you can see, we're continuing on through our tournament schedule. Would like to bring to attention everybody the number of participants that we've had. We've had over 1,000 participants in our 9 events. Next upcoming event is not until May 3rd. It's our Swing into Spring event. And we currently have 92 players signed up, which is good. A couple weeks ago, we had our 2-day tournament, our Sun City West Classic. Years ago, we tried to make this an individual stroke play event. We found that our golfers didn't really want to play 36 holes individually. They needed or wanted a partner, which I surely understand. So we changed this to a 2-person team. And this year we played it at Deer Valley and Grandview. We had a ladies' flight or men's flight. Might recognize some of the names up there. A couple pictures from the winning side, Jim Anderson and Al Schinkelberg, and Susan Boyle and Sharon Bradley. So it was a good turnout. Wanted to give you an update on our call center. This has been something we've been monitoring over the last 6 months. We have seen a reduction in phone calls through our call center. It's now currently up to 20% less calls than we did last year. See, the average number of calls this year is 157 per day. And with that, we've reduced the number of hours that our staff is working by. Typically, we have 2 people in there. There are times of the day where we just have 1 staff member. So we're adjusting based upon the number of calls. Just a reminder, call center and player assistance come to a close at the end of April. So we'll run them as long as we need to. As long as we stay busy and see the need. If for some reason we run into a streak of hot weather and play dramatically falls off, we'll curtail their hours as well. Wanted to give you an update on our green team program. It's been very successful this last winter. We've got a tournament, kind of a goodbye to the snowbirds at the end of April 26th, in fact. It's limited to 80 players due to the fact it's on a executive golf course, and currently we have 66 signed up for this. So we're looking for a good turnout for that. Since February, they've been averaging over 100 players per week. So that's been a good little program for us. Just a reminder for Todd's sake and for our golfers to keep those carts 15 to 30 feet away from the cart, or excuse me, the greens and tees. Somebody sent me over a picture today, believe it or not, of somebody next to the green on number 13 at Desert Trails. So we communicated that to the PA, and they were able to go out and remind the group to keep their distance. And with that, that's my report.
Okay, Mr. Miller.
So Pat, you made the comment that there was 1,000 people that participated in the tournaments.
Yes.
How many of those are the same people that play multiple tournaments? I mean, really and truly, are we talking about 300 people out of the 7,000 people that play golf?
There is quite a few that play tournament after tournament. I would say it's probably half and half. Half of those
So 500 out of 7,000.
that cycle through.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
We talked last month about the call center.
Yes.
When no one is there and the call center's closed or whatever. Did you find out if it can be tricked over to the golf course, that they were actually calling when no one is there? Because a lot of times we just get the, our hours are such and such and blah, blah, blah.
Right. So yes, they are flipped back once the call. So we have a call forwarding, and then we take that off at the end of the day. If by chance somebody doesn't answer that call after 5 o'clock, that should be on the pro shop staff.
Okay, it was weekend. I'm just talking weekend.
Okay.
Because someone's there from in the morning.
7 to noon?
7 to noon. Okay, from say noon to 5.
Correct. That's the
It's
pro shop.
supposed, and it's supposed to go to the pro shop, right?
It
Okay.
is. So
I'll
we
try again.
reiterated the fact that they need to make sure that it gets
Yes.
pushed back
Yes.
to the pro shop.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, with no other questions or comments from the committee, there are no questions online. Folks, anyone in the audience have a question or a comment for Mr. O'Hara? Okay, thank you, Pat. And next we have Mr. Todd Patty, who does not have a presentation, but just has a few words to say about our courses, now that it's almost 100 degrees.
Good afternoon. Yes, I just have a couple reminders and updates. As you know, we closed Echo Mesa Golf Course this past Monday for the irrigation production project, and I can tell you, on day one, they really hit the ground. Had about 25 people out there working, busy place, moving main line around, and that kind of stuff. So they started at the chipping green area, and then went over to 9 green, and they're going to work backwards, 9 over to 8, 9, and then go over to the back 9. So far, they've put in about 150 yards of main line. Takes quite a bit of time. And then they put in about 100 yards of the lateral pipe, which is the pipe that feeds the sprinkler heads. And they also installed several mainline valves too. So we completed aerification of the greens on Tuesday, and then we top dressed them yesterday. And I can tell you, those greens that were damaged from the vandalism were really starting to come back with this hot weather and amount of water that we've been putting on them, so we're seeing a lot of Bermuda. So again, I'm confident that we're going to get a full recovery out of those. We sod cut some tee boxes. Number 8 white was one of them that we did this morning, and getting ready for tee leveling. So we have a number of those that we're going to be doing. It only took about a half an hour for those guys to strip that tee box. So we're going to put some sand on there. We're going to float that out, and then we'll resod. So I think we'll be able to knock out most of the tees are really out of shape as far as that turtleback condition that they have in the center from filling divots. We did cut around around the T complex on number 3. I'd mentioned that we're going to lower that all the way down to the car path level. So we've been working on that. So we should be hauling some of that dirt out of there, leveling that. And most of that dirt, if not all of that dirt, is going to go in that grass bunker on number 9. That's where everything's been going so far, but we have some other grass bunkers throughout the golf course that we're going to be filling in. So again, all the material that's generated from the project is going to stay on the project. Nothing's heading out. We're going to re-level the driving range tee, and that's scheduled for next Wednesday, where we'll put a heavy top dress on that, and then they'll come in and do a leveling on that. So I was looking at it this morning. It's not really out of shape, but there are some depression areas that need to be filled in. So that's really going to help that out. And then, as a reminder, spring aerification started today over at Grandview Golf Course. This is a core aerification. Looks like they're going to be able to top dress all the greens by the end of the day. So that's good. And then we're going to do the fairways tomorrow. That's that deep tine aerification. So going around there this morning. In order to get the maximum depth on that fairway aerification, you have to do real heavy watering. There was a lot of standing water out there on the golf course this morning, which was a good sign. We'll water heavy again tonight and bring those machines in. So that's really a jump start to transition as the greens aerification as well heats up the soils a little bit and gets Bermuda growing. I did walk a few fairways over at Grandview today. I was impressed with the amount of Bermuda that we're seeing this time of the year. That amount that I was looking at today, usually don't see that until about May, end of May. So we are definitely ahead of schedule. So we've got to keep our fingers crossed that we're going to have a good transition this year. It's not over yet, so I don't want to get too excited about it, but so far so good. And it's all weather driven. You know, I know it's going to cool off next week into the 80s, but hopefully after that little drop off, we'll be back up around 100 and up from there. So far so good. And then next up on the aerification, what was that? Oh, yeah. And then next up for aerification of greens and fairways will be Stardust. That's all I have as far as updates.
Okay, thank you, Todd. Anyone comments, questions? Please.
The vandalism that occurred at Echo Mesa, you applied for an insurance claim on that. Did that ever get accepted?
We didn't. We filed a police report, but we didn't do an insurance.
Oh, okay, my misunderstanding. I thought there was an insurance claim sent in.
I'll let Cliff come up.
Yeah, Cliff Swan, CFO. We worked with our insurance company, and the analysis that we did on that, based on the deductible that we had to meet and the loss of business that we had to prove, it didn't make sense to file a claim. So we decided not to do that. And we were able to minimize it by the steps that we took, the measures that we took to keep the course open and kind of restructure some of the greens and the like. So it worked out that way.
Wanted to give you the opportunity to smile again.
Okay.
So what kind of insurance policy actually is the one that we have that covers that kind of thing?
So what covers that was the business insurance that we have for loss of income. And the deductible was $10,000 for that, but then before you get into the deductible, you have to be down a certain amount of time of business. But when they look at the whole business model, they look at all the courses, and the math wasn't there I believe we had estimated a potential 30,000 loss on that, and we couldn't prove to get a claim on that with all it was just it wasn't worth it.
Okay,
Yep.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Cliff. Anyone else in the audience? Questions, comments? Nothing online. Okay, thank you. Well, now we've completed the staff reports. Moving on to new business, and we'll start off with 4.01. But the next three items all deal with next year's budget, the capital improvements projects. But the first thing will be the items of 50,000 and over. And Dave or Carl, who's gonna? Dave. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so this is the capital improvements project for fiscal year 25-26. We don't have any new updates on it. Essentially, we've been through this several times. You can go to the next slide. Here's the overall budget, which shows the new capital projects, repair and replacement for the recreation, for golf and landscaping, as well as our allowances. I went through all the changes that caused the deferment for the repair and replacement items. So really, this is current, up to date. I assume you can scroll to the next one if anyone has any questions. We can look at the golf capital projects. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. If there were no changes, that pretty much wraps up that presentation.
Okay, thank you. And who's moving on then to our, any proposed pullouts for next year? Is anyone? Todd, I know we don't have any at the moment, but is there anything that we need to be aware of?
I don't know of any pullouts on my end, no changes on my end, the capital, that's the equipment and the projects. So, no changes from last time, and I don't know of any pullouts.
Okay, so from golf's perspective, when we address this at the meeting tomorrow, there are no pullouts from golf. So anyone in the audience, any questions, comments? Okay.
I'm sorry, what do you mean by pullouts?
Oh, okay, pullouts would be the list is itemized. If there's any one item you just want to pull out for additional discussion, you're not pulling it off the list. You just feel it would need to be discussed individually and approved. Otherwise, we approve the entire list in whole. So, okay, that completes 4.01, 02, and 03. And now we'll move back to Mr. O'Hara with, actually, I think Dave or Carl will talk about the update on the proposed move of the range ball machines.
Thank you again. Let's see, so a few weeks back, we got a formal request to look at providing closures for the golf range ball dispenser machines. There's 7 total courses, 5 of which would have new electrical and an enclosure, and 2 of which would just have a new enclosure. We've performed programming, we've got some sketches, not only site plan view, but elevations we've been working on, so we can have a basis of estimate. We've visited each golf course to try to identify the things that are obstructions. Nothing that would be a showstopper, but would be something that is out of the ordinary. So at any rate, we're prepared to put a budget together for these enclosures and the electrical. And at this point, though, still waiting on the cost for the enclosures and the electrical, but should be able to wrap that up in a week or so as far as coming up with a budget estimate.
Questions?
Well, I'll make a comment. You know, there's a spectrum of solutions to the concern. And I've heard from a number of people that we don't want to spend a nickel to do this. I've heard from other people that, you know, they're very dissatisfied with the noise. I'll recount a story that happened to me on Sunday. I was at Echo Mesa, and there was a group of ladies sitting on the patio, and I dropped a bucket of balls, and they proceeded to cuss me out. Okay? So there is no right or wrong answer to this. Moving the ball machines is one of the things that we talked about, and that obviously is probably going to be the most expensive solution. I think as I go around, and from the time we talked about this at the last meeting, I've played all 7 of the courses. Every single one of the courses has slightly different things that they have done, whether it's a towel, whether it's carpet, whether it's rubber mat. And I don't know, the impression comes across that somebody at the golf course has just decided to do something rather than trying to put a uniform solution in place. Okay? So I don't know who that is. But it'd be really nice if we could do something in the interim other than, you know, pay to move all the ball machines. I mean, that's not gonna be cheap. You know, it would be nice if people would just kind of, like in the one in Echo Mesa, now the problem's gone away because Echo Mesa's closed. But it would be nice if, you know, something as simple as putting some foam down in the bottom, again, could be done. Now Cliff's gonna have another opportunity to smile now. So, anyway, so, you know, I understand people are sensitive about spending tens of thousands of dollars or whatever the number ends up being to move the ball machines. And, you know, there's things involved in moving the ball machines besides just noise abatement, for lack of anything else. I mean, I've actually thought about taking my decibel meter out to the golf course and sitting there and actually listening to that and getting some measurements. So anyway, you know, I think there needs to be something done in the interim because I don't like being cussed out by a bunch of elderly ladies sitting on a patio. You know, just not something that makes my day. So anyway.
Thanks, Rudy. So we did last year it was around November, we took one of those, the new ball machines that we have, disassembled it, and proceeded to, with our maintenance team, line it with a adhesive-backed, almost like insulation. And one, it dampened the sound a little bit, but there's no solution other than to move them. They're tin cans, and when the ball hits, they have various points where the balls hit throughout the they're tiered, and they still make a racket. And then since then, we found out that whatever we did to that ball machine is now deteriorating with the elements, and pieces of it are coming off. And there's really, so I would say that in terms of trying to come up with a solution with dampening the sound on the machines, it's not just one spot that makes the noise. It makes it all the way throughout the process, all the way down to when it hits the bucket at the bottom. And there's really no way to do it without altering the machine significantly. Then you're talking about warranty, changing it, and all that. So in terms of the sound itself, there's really no way to make it better. The only way is to move those machines. And we're in the process of getting a quote for that right now, unfortunately. So we did try. Yep.
Sorry, go ahead.
I have a question here. As far as, will this be coming out of this year's budget or next year's budget?
At this point, we're doing an analysis only.
So
We don't know.
So this year or next year?
I can answer that.
Okay.
Okay. So the budget itself so we're in current year, fiscal year 2025. What's being voted on is fiscal year 2026. Neither one of these budgets have an earmarked amount for this type of project, which is going to be significant. So that said, we have ways, we have allowance funds, we have savings, we have avenues that we can go through facts and findings to our governing board. So we do have ways to get things done if they're approved, if the funds are approved by the governing board. So those are the routes that we will look at throughout the process. Now, that said, we've talked internally, Pat, and we'd like to, if we're going to go this route, at least get one or two under our belt so that we could come with a formal budget request for FY27 and knock the rest of them out and have some good information that we can come. So that's kind of the plan right now.
So my understanding is you're working on this internally, and would offer something to us next month, or?
But yeah, we're doing an analysis right now. Mr. David and his team with Golf Ops, and I believe you were part of a meeting with the location of where we would put these. So yeah, we're doing this internally to come back to the committee with some information, and then we go from there.
Pat?
Yeah, I just had a question on that, Phil. Back to this committee or back to the governing board?
Yeah,
And that will be okay in timing for approval of the budget for next year? No, so, exactly. But I just want to make a comment. There's allowance funds now, and there's projects that have come in under budget. Why wouldn't we take Echo Mesa and is it Trailwood that's being closed this summer? And do those now under this budget, get it done, that takes it down to 5. And I'd hate to see us wait till 27 to get this done. So I said it in like 10 words. And
if I could just add, I'm sorry, if I could just add too, so to Mr. Miller's point, there's, I think, a different level of tolerance and options may be available. So because it's looking like this can be very expensive, you know, some folks may or may not be on board with spending this kind of money. So what our plan is to figure out these costs, and then to Cliff's point, you know, say, okay, based on these costs, if you as a committee think this is important enough to move forward, then we can move it forward. And then I still want to see governing board approval, even though it probably will fall in with within the allowance ability. Because of that very reason, to your point, is some people don't even notice it, don't even care. Other people cuss you out when you're getting the range balls. So the idea is that some folks may not be particularly happy with the idea that we're going to ultimately spend upwards of probably $100,000 to do these, for all of them. It's going to be expensive. We're looking at about $30,000 each is what we're coming back at. So it's going to be a decision that it really does become a policy decision. Does the committee recommend and does the board approve spending that type of money to make these kind of changes? Listen, I mean, and our position is, you know, if you all want that to happen, then great, we'll make it happen. But otherwise, then if it's not, then that would be the decision of the board, and we'll move forward from there.
Okay. I have a follow-on question. Sure. What did we actually pay for each of those ball machines?
It was approximately $12,000 each.
Well, then I would suggest, rather than doing that, buy quieter ball machines.
Do they exist? I don't know if they do.
I don't know if they're out there.
Well, you know, that's called an engineering specification.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Arno. But
Thank you.
okay, so you're going to come back next month with a better proposal, include some costs. We will then look at this matter again and see, kind of put in a monetary value on what it's worth to the community to move them at the given cost, and we'll move forward from there. Any other? First I'll go to any comments from folks in the audience. Yes, sir. I think you know the drill, name and rec card number. Thank you.
Tom Wolgemuth, 112417. I would just point out a couple things. 2 of the ball machines are already moved out. So we're only talking about a protective cover there. Stardust, I don't think is a problem. Maybe I'm wrong, but Stardust is away from the patio. So I don't think that's an issue. So I think we're looking at 4, not 7, and to see how it goes that way.
Sorry. So when you make your analysis and when you make your recommendation or analysis, I'm sorry, will you have it broken down as far as electrical conduit, well, electrical, and what it will cost to trench, so those could be all separate. And I'm so sorry. And, oh geez, I am. And so it would, we could break it down, because each one, it kind of sounds like will be different. Each facility could be different. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you'll have electrical costs and closure costs. Different to begin with, so it'll be really clear.
Yes, sir. Please come to the microphone with your name and rec card number.
Yeah, my name is Ron Ripley. I'm 118360. I heard a number here, upwards of 30,000 per machine. Move 5 machines, that's $150,000. What percentage of the golfers complain about the noise? Are you going to be spending that kind of money to satisfy a few people, or a large percentage of the golfing community?
You know, I don't think we have that information, but the way I look at it is the following. People know that individuals are on the committees. When someone comes to me and expresses a concern, I feel it's my obligation to report that concern to the committee. The committee then will think about it, they'll make a recommendation, and ultimately it's up to the board to make a decision. But, you know, have we gone out and done a scientific survey about it bothers me or it doesn't bother me? No, we haven't done that. I don't disagree that that's an awful lot of money, which is why I asked the question, what did we pay for the machines to begin with? And I go back to, did we do a good job when we set down a set of engineering specifications in terms of what we wanted to buy? We should have thought about how noisy those machines were going to be, given where they were going to be located. Appears to me we did not do that. So, to answer your question, no. I mean, I don't have a scientific polling of how many people complain about it. I do think that we have to do something, if nothing more, than say, okay, we did our due diligence in terms of what possible solutions are, and frankly, we came to the conclusion that it was cost prohibitive to do that. That's not this committee's decision, that's the board's decision. So.
Yeah, I understand, and I understand there's no scientific analysis, but I've heard about this over the last few weeks, and I've talked to people about it, and of course, my conversations are not scientific. Everybody I've spoken to is of the opinion that it's a nominal gain, a lot of money for a nominal gain to satisfy a few people.
And I appreciate that, and I understand that. Again, I will recount a story. I have a lot of good stories. You know, I sit on the patio at Echo Mesa, and there's groups of people that sit there after they play their rounds. And I have one individual who will go nameless, that every time that ball machine drops a set of balls, he yells at the top of his voice, "Thanks, Pat." Okay, you know, he doesn't have hearing aids. You know, look, I don't want to spend a lot of money on this, but I am trying to be responsive to the people who've raised it as a concern. Okay, now I can say I've done that. I can suggest people turn their hearing aids down. I can suggest they wear earplugs. I can suggest they drink more beer. Okay, I can do all of those. But the reality is there's always going to be people that are unhappy with that, just like there's always going to be people that don't want to spend that money. Okay? So again, the committee is trying to look at it and come up with a reasonable solution. If there isn't one that's reasonable in terms of cost, then we say, okay, guys, we're just not going to do that, and you'll have to suck it up. But we're not at that point yet. So, oh, now Bosac's coming down. Oh, God. So,
Gary Bosack, 102585. I spend a lot of time on the patio, and never once have I heard somebody complain about the noise. They complain about balls going all over the ground and chasing them out into the parking lot. So that to me is a much bigger problem. I was actually surprised that it only cost $12,000 for the machines originally. I assume we got 3 bids from vendors. There's got to be something out on the market that meets the requirements that we have. Have we done the research to determine that or not?
We didn't ask for decibel readings or anything of that nature. The big problem we have is that they're under the canopy, so it makes that echo sound.
Understand.
That's the problem, yeah.
But again, I got to say that I've not heard anybody ever complain about the noise, but the balls flying all over the place is the #1 complaint that I hear.
yeah, and I would agree with that. And I made this comment to someone earlier that, you know, I get concerned when I see balls spewing out of the machine there at Echo Mesa, and I see people, again, older than I am, trying to chase them across the parking lot. Gary's waving at himself for those who can't see that. So, you know, it is a liability thing from another perspective. So I do think there's multiple reasons to take a look at it. Again, if we can't come up with a cost-effective solution, then we'll just have to live with it the way it is.
Okay, we do have a few comments online. Kathy?
Yeah, this is from Bryce Stevens. I don't have his rec number, but he does say, see my comments from last month. I'm going to try to recall what those were. I believe we had 2 solutions offered up from the community. I think, Bryce, if you could resend what that comment was, we can track that. But I would request that somebody contact Bryce Stevens and see what his idea is. And then also there was a second idea, if we could go back and look at those. They were all low-cost ideas. It might go down to the lower side. There's a bright community. A lot of people work in the metal and the wood shop. And I would suggest if we haven't made those contacts, why wouldn't we make those contacts? So please go back and, Bryce, resend your comments, or we'll try it. Somebody's going to track them down. Rudy, we can track them down. That was his comment.
Okay, that's it online. If no one else, we obviously haven't reached a solution on this today, but we'll look forward to what you have to offer next month. Okay.
Thank you.
4.05, Pat, are you going to address that, or?
Yes, I can start this conversation.
Okay,
Sure.
yeah, this will be more of a conversation.
So this is in reference to the Grandview furniture purchasing for the Crooked Putter. Chairman Rudy Grom and I visited with Jeff Smith, owner-operator of the Crooked Putter, visited with him what his needs were, what his desires were. We also invited a sales rep, Erica, who was involved in selling us our patio furniture that we currently have in place, to get some ideas. In fact, I have a follow-up meeting with Erica and Jeff tomorrow tomorrow afternoon, I believe. And we're trying to locate a certain size table that meets his needs. He finds more success with 46-inch round tables. And Eric is trying to find the options for him to look at those. So I should have some more information at a later time. But yes, we're moving forward with this.
I think subsequent to our last discussion, it's determined that the rec centers is responsible for that furniture, not the Crooked Putter. Is that correct?
Both of those, there's a commingling of furniture out there. We own some of that, not all of it. And I believe we've come to terms saying that we would like to help out the Crooked Putter and be part of this solution. Yes.
Any further questions or comments? Anyone in the audience? Anything, Kathy? So let's just say our next step forward, you're meeting tomorrow with
Right, to see
Okay.
what the availability of the particular furniture requirements that Jeff is looking for, the owner. And then we'll be able, I'm sure, within the next week or two, we'll be able to update this and absolutely be able to update you on the next committee meeting.
Okay, so come forward with a cost estimate, because at this point, this is not a funded item
Correct.
for next year's budget. In fact, we haven't even really approved this yet. We're still in the kind of the exploratory stage.
That's correct.
Okay.
It's in this budget. There's $10,000 in this budget for
Okay, there's-
Grandview.
10,000 for this year?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we'll move on to the next thing then for Pat. You have a presentation on kind of, we call it slow play, but it's got some other
Yes.
elements in it.
So I put a few, well, here, I'll go up to the podium. So I put a few slides together to talk about slow play. I'm hoping this answers the questions that we're seeking. Slides that I put together was really centered around slow play and the importance of how pace of play is in a round of golf. So the four components, four cornerstones, if you will, of what we look for in a round of golf for golfers, whether we think of it this way or not, becomes course conditions, customer service, value, what you paid for that round of golf, pace of play. So all of those are important in a round of golf. Put a slide here together for player assistance. Their purpose is to make the round of golf enjoyable for all golfers, not for the good players, not for the fast players, not for the young players, but for everybody. So our goal here and our challenge here is to get everybody around the golf course, especially this time of year, in a reasonable amount of time. And in our world, it's 3 hours for an executive, 4 hours for a regulation golf course. The PA helps with on-course emergencies. They become the point person. They encourage our golfers to be aware of and to do their part in keeping up with their pace of play. That's number one. So pace of play is foremost the important part of our player assistance job. Second is enforcing course rules. Where are you driving your cart? Does everybody have a set of bag or a set of clubs? Is there less than 6 people in your group? Things of that nature. Enforce course rules is important as well. And then when they get a chance, they try to help Todd and his crew out by sanding and seeding divots, fixing ball marks, and raking bunkers. And here's the interesting part about this is that if we didn't have PAs out there, the go-to person to handle all of this would be the starter behind the counter. And you know how busy they are during a typical day in Sun City West. So pace of play, there's 3 main reasons why there's slow play. Course rules and regulations. Cart path only typically is slower than 90 degree or taking the carts off the path. Here's a great one. Who knows 14 at Trail Ridge? Backs up at 14 because you've got to hit your second shot into the green, and then you've got to come back to the tee, drive around the lake. It's just a challenge there. So that course setup causes slow play. Course setup in the way it's set up for the day. Is the rough long? Fortunately, we don't have a lot of rough here. Todd does a good job of maintaining that. Greens too slow or fast. This time of year, they're getting pretty quick. Are the holes located in the corners? Are they in challenging positions? Every once in a while, we'll see one that has a little slope to it, and it might be a little challenging for that day. Tee markers. Are they deep? Are they in a situation like, I'll use Trail Ridge again. Number 4 at Trail Ridge. You've got tee boxes by the cart path, and then you've got one that you have to walk down a little path to get to. So where are they? So Todd, again, does a great job depending on the number of players that we have that day. And then here's the real one, golfers' habits. People not ready to play when it's their turn, okay? We know it's a social game, but there's also time and a place for talking and getting cut-ups and all that kind of stuff. You got to be ready to play when it's your turn. A lot of times we see it in how people use carts. Sometimes carts aren't the golfer's best friend. Sometimes they become a liability, where they parked it,
how they use it. They just don't use it quite effectively. Recording scores on the green rather than the next tee. And then looking for balls other than their own. The hawker, as we say. So this is where we can improve as golfers. Be ready to go, play ready golf. You know, the golf has a lot of etiquette. They have a lot of nuances to it. The honor system, low score on the previous hole goes first. Well, if that person's not ready, let's get the second person up there hitting. Use the cart to help your pace of play, not hurt it. Play a provisional ball if you think that ball is out of bounds. Now with the rules of golf, we've got the local rule that we can use to help speed up pace of play in that area. Continuous putting. Back when we had metal spikes, this was a big issue. You're really not stepping in anybody's line, pulling up grass with metal spikes. As long as you're aware of your playing partners and not stepping in their line, keep putting. Writing down the scorecard, and then just being aware of where you are on the golf course. That seems to be the biggest challenge. Sometimes we just forget where we are. Hey, the group's 2 holes ahead of you. Yeah, but they're a threesome. Well, the group ahead of them's a foursome, so you're still playing a little slow. So it's just being aware of where you are relative to everybody else. I put this together, and I've got a copy for each golf course if somebody wants to see this. This is of Echo Mesa. This is put together by the Arizona Golf Association. We call it our POP, pace of play chart. This is what a foursome playing from the white tees should take to play each hole. You would be putting the flag stick in the hole at the end of 12 minutes on hole number 1. Now I highlighted 4 holes here because this is kind of the challenge with the way we're set up here in Sun City West. It takes 9 minutes to play hole number 4. So Dave Miller, you play at Echo Mesa a lot. Where is the first backup? If you're okay, fair enough. Well, the group's behind you, half hour behind you. They're finding their first backup is on number 4. It's a tough hole. It's got water to the right. 90% of golfers slice. So a lot of balls go in there. But it takes 9 minutes to play that hole. That's important because we're loading the freeway every 8 and 7 minutes, right? Our tee times are every 8 and 7 minutes. So if you're having to play a hole, a par 3, which there should only be 1 group on that hole, it takes longer for a group to tee off. These are the holes you're going to see backups. And if you look at it, 8 is also one, 13 and 17 are all areas that bottleneck on Echo Mesa. You can see that we asked that round of golf, 255 for them. That's 5 minutes for a turn time to get a drink or use the restroom. But it's pretty aggressive. 3 hours is pretty aggressive, but it's doable. And I think for the most part, we do, meaning our residents and the staff do a pretty good job of trying to keep that pace. This is the same chart extrapolated per hole. So the PA can come up to a group, see what hole they're on, ask you what time you teed off, and they can tell you that whether or not you're on time. The challenge with this is this quantifies it. Sometimes where we get mixed signals is you look at where the group is in relationship to all the other groups, and they don't line up. So this quantifies it for somebody that needs that, and then we visually see where they are in relationship to other groups when we go around the golf course. Now, the initiative we've been behind for the last few years is a Best Tee program. This is where the USGA came out, looked at our golf courses, and said, if you hit a 7-iron, these distances, this is the tee that you should play from. This makes the golf round more enjoyable. It allows you to make pars and birdies more often. It just kind of gives you a sense of having more fun out there. The problem is a lot of people like to play from a further back tee. for whatever reason. I don't know if it's a better value from back there or what, but I think if we followed this a little closer, I think a lot more people would play quicker and enjoy the game a little bit. That's my thoughts on that.
Okay, thank you, Pat. From the committee, Vanessa.
Just a quick question, Pat.
We'll do the committee first, and then.
I'll just be a sec. So a lot of times, there is a bit of slow play going on, and we'll see a PA, and he'll come over, he'll have his tee sheet, even though we know there's 2 holes in front of the group in front of us, and we'll say, have they run into some trouble? They are a couple of holes behind. He'll look at his sheet. Oh, no, they're right on time. He doesn't know that the starter has pushed out people 15 minutes ahead of time, 7 minutes ahead of time. So that isn't really viable. In the same respect, sometimes things get bottled up right on the first tee. So you're sent 7 or 15 minutes late, and you're told you're behind. So I think it's important that the PA out there that day talks to the starter and asks, are you running on time? Or have you sent groups out ahead? And that might make his job a little bit better, and we won't all give him a hard time.
Sure, those are the curveballs, but the reality of it is if you stay up with the group in front of you, a PA will probably never have a discussion with you. If there's gaps between groups, those can come, because it ebbs and flows. If you play Echo Mesa, for example, you get done with number 4, 5 is always wide open. And the reason is because it's taken so long to play 4, 5 is a fairly benign par 4 that you can sprint down 5. And so now if a PA is coming up backwards on 5 and sees an open hole and then talks to Vanessa on the 4 on the green on 4 and says, hey, you're behind. Well, wait a minute, I've been waiting 10 minutes on this tee box. So we try to have them do their due diligence to say, before you make any comments, let's see what that ebb and flow looks like and try to keep everybody up with the group in front of them. Absolutely.
I was the one that requested a little bit on slow play. I think one of our, well, if you can go to the slide on Echo Mesa, the one you just showed with the minutes on there, Pat. So we've built in a backup because our tee times are 7 and 8 minutes. This is really enlightening to me because my average 9-hole round on the executive courses have been 2 hours, my average. For the last 14 rounds, executive and regulation.
What time do you play?
I have all different times. Happy to look at them.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. On Wednesdays, it's even worse. And as I understand it, there's no player assistant on Wednesdays.
Oh, there is, from 9 to 3.
There is 9 to 3.
On executive courses, not on regulation.
Why not on regulation?
Because they're usually doing a double.
Because they don't
do
want
shotguns.
Okay, all right. So my average regulation rounds have been about, regulation you say 4 hours, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So they've been about 36 minutes over for my different rounds. And the 9 holes or the executive have been anywhere from a half hour to an hour longer. That's a lot for an executive course.
Sure it is.
Yeah. So I think our tee times are too close together on the executive because you were talking about 13 is, or number 5 is wide open. That's true, but you get to 6 and 7, it's backed up again. So it's a constant wait. I have yet to play a round in January, February, March where I haven't waited more than 5 minutes. I've waited more than 5 minutes. I haven't played a round where I've waited less.
On each tee box or what?
I'm going to say on like Echo Mesa, it's the ebb and flow. Sure, it opens up on 5,
sure,
but then I'm waiting on 7 and 8, and usually it's more than 5 minutes.
Right.
So because our tee times are 7 and 8 minutes, we've built in a backup. So why wouldn't we move those tee times out on the executives Because I really think part of this, when you go back to your 4 prongs, is enjoyment of this. And you just get more frustrated and more frustrated as you wait and you're spending 2 hours on an executive course for 9 holes. You're looking at the turn saying, oh my God, this is gonna be another 2 hours. And then on the regulation, I'm finding on Wednesdays, on the regulation, and then most of those would be like 2:15, 1:32, 2:15, 3 o'clock tee-offs, and playing 9 holes. It's taking longer than, it's taking 2 hours.
Okay.
Or more, 2 hours and 30 minutes.
So the three.
So my real question is does anybody else experience this? Or is it just Kathy who's totally frustrated and the women I play with on Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday? Is it just the different people I play with? Have we built in a problem with our executive courses because they're only 7 and 8 minutes? Are we here for enjoyment? Are we here for, what's the balance here? And my real question is, I understand, you have different players on the course. The other is I spent some time talking with the starters at some of the different courses. And now they're not out on the course, so this would be the players' assistants. I find there's times that the player assistants need to tell people to pick up the ball and move on. And that I have yet to see that. Yeah, so those are my comments.
Sure.
If I'm the only one frustrated, life is shitty. Because I play about 4 or 5 times a week.
So a couple things. One of the challenges that we have in this community is that we've got 55-year-olds, 65-year-olds, 75-year-olds, 85-year-olds, and we have some 95-year-olds. We also have people of different abilities and mobilities. And then we also have different sizes of groups. We have twosomes, threesomes, and foursomes typically out there. So if you're playing in a threesome, you can expect to wait a little bit longer.
I'm not talking about that. I mean, if there's a foursome in front of me and I'm a threesome or twosome, I'm waiting. I understand that. I'm a golfer. I understand that, Pat.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Years ago, it's been about 8 or 9 years ago, we did a little test over at Stardust. We moved all our tee times to 10 minutes. And we didn't quite get the response that we thought we would, because there's 2 components to this. One, there's a revenue side of this, right? And then the other side is, does this really help pace of play? Because I wanted to come from a standpoint of, and it was years ago that we found that at 1:30 in the afternoon, even during peak season, you could shoot a cannon off number 1 and nobody would hear it because there wasn't anybody out there. So the progression we've seen in rounds of golf has really been very, very positive because the day has gotten longer for us. And what we found was that people early on didn't play late morning, early afternoon because they were concerned about pace of play. It's going to be slow. If I tee off at 1 o'clock, it's going to be very, very slow. And so we played around with the tee times a little bit. We didn't see any noticeable difference between 10-minute tee times at Stardust and the 8 and 7. That's the first thing. And the other thing, people came to us and said, we really don't like it because our groups spread out further. If I've got 40 players, instead of an hour's worth of tee times, I've got an hour and a half, even though that they're consecutive tee times. So it was kind of a funny comment. Willing to try it again, see how it goes. I'm intrigued by that as well, because I think that might be something to play around with. But it's driven by the golf course. Executives is where I would go. Regulation's pretty good, unless somebody's telling me they've got 5-hour rounds out there habitually. I usually hear this from my PAs because they'll write an end of shift report and say it was really slow this day for whatever reason, but I'm not hearing a lot of that. So whatever you're saying here, I'll follow up with my PAs. Okay? But I'm willing to give it a shot too. The ease of the quarter hours is the beauty of the 8s and 7s. 7, 7:15, 7:30, 7:45.
I guess my question is, really, I don't know how you do this, because, you know, when people come off the course, trying to find out how long it really took them, that's what I've been doing. I've been writing down at the turn and then when I'm done. So do I make up for it on the back nine?
Sure.
You know, so if I'm still within that 4 hour or even 3 hour, that says 2:55, so my data's already off. And, you know, so if I'm playing 18 and I make it up on the turn, that's fine. But I don't always play 18. Maybe Sunday afternoon I play 9 holes because we don't tee off till 3 on a regulation. And you know, we were going to go on and play 10, 11, and 12, but it took 2.5 hours just to play 9 holes. That's too long.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But again, if I seem to be the only one, I just think we need to pay attention to the enjoyment of golf. And that's what's important to me. Thank you.
Okay, any comments? Oh, I see people in the audience. Please come to the podium. Thank you.
Bob Sherburne, 13762. All the ideas for the pace of play I think are great. The problem is educating the player, because not everybody sees that and does it, and especially the tee box. Where should you tee off from? I've followed people that take 6 shots to get to the green from the whites, when had they played the reds or even 150 mark, put them better. So you need to educate people. I don't know how you can do that, because you've only been, well, that's one, because you've only been educating us for how many years you've been here, right? The same stuff. Maybe that's.
So my only comment is, do we just have one player assistant per course when they're out there? Or do we have a player assistant on the front nine and the back nine?
No, we just have one per course.
So maybe we need 2, and maybe we need somebody at the start on hole number 1.
Hey, Pat? How many times in that player assistant's 4-hour shift is he supposed to go around 18 holes?
There's not a quota where they go around. It depends on what's needed. Typically in their shift, they'll get around the golf course 3 times. Typical day, less on up.
Okay, Tom Wolgemuth, 112417. And most of you know I've been a USGA rules official for 20 plus years. Pace of play is 98% of what we spend our time on in tournaments. When you pack a lot of golfers on the golf course, it's going to slow it down. 10-minute intervals, I believe, would help, but it's an economic issue there. I will say that in the wintertime here, as far as my personal feeling, if I finish an 18-hole round on a regulation course in 4.5 hours, that's not bad. In the summertime, we can play in 3 hours. It's all the amount of golfers that are out there, and you can beat your head against a wall. Believe me, I've been doing it for 20 plus years on pace of play, and it's just, there's no easy solution at all. The starters here, I would say, my comment for that is that if they're 8 and 7 minutes, don't send them early. The starters here generally look out when the first fairway's clear, they send the next group. And they're really proud of themselves when they find themselves 15 minutes early. And that's not right. We're just packing the course. You're going to find the first par 3 on a regulation course, you're going to be looking at 3 groups up there. Heaven forbid we have a frost delay and they really try to pack everybody out there. You can have 5 groups waiting on the 3rd hole, you know. So that's the only thing I would say that would help here on that regard. Here I'm actually kind of happy at the pace we do play at compared to tournaments where I have these younger kids that they see all the pros that take forever to do that. It's just a nightmare. And senior people, I think we just move around. And what else have we got to do?
Okay, thank you very much. We do not have any comments online and any other comments from the committee. I will open it up to the committee. Any comments overall about the meeting or other things you'd like to bring to light?
Sorry, I have a comment. Will you have a comment, David? Okay.
Yes, I'll approach it. We had a proposal made at the general manager's operations meeting on Monday concerning moving the 18 chartered golf clubs to be under the control of golf operations instead of chartered clubs. They would remain chartered clubs, thus giving them priority to have their league days. And are we going to address that at the meeting tomorrow?
What purpose would that serve?
Well, Mr. Erno, would you like to just kind of expand on this just briefly?
Yeah, so what was discussed at the GM Ops meeting was the fact that, currently we have the golf charter clubs, and there's a lot of back and forth that takes place when they need something, and it's, oh, you need to call Casey, or Casey says, no, you need to call Pat. The only change at this point that has been made is to go to Pat directly for those for those concerns, or whatever it is the golf charter club is trying to do, is to go to Pat. The goal is to try to make it easier for everybody so that we're not in this frustration, that they don't have the frustration of, well, do I call Casey, do I call Pat? And to give them that one central point of contact. That's it. It's not and operationally for us it makes sense, and from a member perspective, the idea is to make it a better member experience so they're not getting frustrated that, well, I called Casey and Casey told me to call Pat, or I called Pat and he told me to call Casey. Having one point of contact from a staff perspective, the idea was just to make things easier for all the clubs.
Yeah, can I follow up? I think control is a strong word. It's not control, it's just the first point of contact is all it is. So here's a great example. Each of the clubs typically do some kind of once or twice a year, some kind of beer and brats type deal. We reserve tables and chairs, we reserve grills, things of this nature, and now we've got the ability to help out of golf ops. Now we get into the backside of this where Casey and I are trying to make sure everybody's covered, and now we're having to double check to say, did they reserve that with you or did they reserve it with us? And now all of a sudden we got a double booking, or we didn't get it booked at all. And now if we had one flow of, if you want tables and chairs, call Pat's office and we'll put it on the master calendar and you guys are checked off and you got it. Or the answer might be, I've already got all my tables and chairs reserved on that day for Desert Trails. Let's get Casey involved in this and see if the rec center can reserve some tables and chairs. So really what it is just a streamline of our assets to help make it so that we don't drop the ball on something. That's all it is. It's not a control factor. It's just I'm the first point. My office would be the first point of contact. That's all it is. Hopefully that helps.
Yep.
I was a little surprised to hear that this had been brought up in the operations meeting rather than come to the golf committee first, but be that as it may. So I know the presidents and the officers of the clubs, men's and women's, have to submit forms to the chartered clubs. Are you now going to take over that function?
There'll be certain forms that will come to me first, but if there's things that, like a room that you want to rent that is a rec center room for a meeting, that will still go through Casey because she controls that master schedule. Tee times that I control, I can book those a lot easier because I see that master schedule. So there's still a division, but we're trying to make it a very distinct line of, this is what you need, go see Casey. This is what you need, come to golf ops, and they can take care of it. So
Okay,
it's a very distinct.
So a question would be, has this been discussed with the boards of the golf clubs?
Yes, we will present this further through Golf Council, which is our vehicle for meeting with all the presidents of the golf clubs. Yes.
And the reason why it was brought forward at GM Ops was for that very reason, because as we start disseminating the information to the different clubs and such, we didn't want the board to be blindsided with the fact that we're making this operational change. And it really is an operational change. We are saying from a streamlined perspective, operationally, it makes more sense for Pat to be the main point of contact for golf clubs, rather than having it route through Casey and back to Pat and all that. We're trying to make it easier. Now, it may work out that it's not a best move, but operationally, at this point, we feel like this is the best thing to try to streamline the process, to make it less frustrating for folks who are questioning, well, who do I go to? Do I go to Pat? Do I go to Casey? The initial point of contact going forward will be Pat, and then work from there.
Any other questions, comments? Anyone in the audience?
I have a, sorry.
I think I see someone coming forward, but my understanding is we are at the beginning of this process in a sense, and the golf clubs will remain chartered clubs, just that their, let's say, reporting in a sense will be under Pat, and that they retain all the rights to have priority on the golf courses.
Absolutely.
Okay.
None of that's changing.
Okay.
It's simply, instead of wondering who to call, always call Pat if you're a golf club, charter club.
Okay, if that's the end of that, any comments in general from anyone on the committee?
I do have a question. I don't know if it's for Cliff or Pat, but I was asked by a golfer who works at a course, anyways, about the 9-hole off the back and the revenue. I don't think we've ever seen that on any of your presentations. They have those whatever time. So if they have an 8:07 time, off the back they go at 8:08. It's a 9-hole league. Well, not even a league. It's a 9-hole tee times. I've never seen any information on the revenue that has garnered. And how do we make people aware of this 9 holes and boost those tee times and make more revenue? Because right now, they're not being really utilized.
We track that, just for everybody's information. If it's a executive course, we have an hour's worth of back 9 tee times first thing in the morning. We don't do an hour and a half based on pace of play because we don't want that first group to be backed up, teeing people off the back. And on the regulation courses, we have an hour and a half worth of tee times. It's a good little bit of revenue. It stays pretty busy, but we can share that information with you. Yeah, we track that. I'll do it next month. How's that?
A lot of people don't know about that, so how do you boost that?
So it's
so that those tee times are filled.
okay. We find that they're fairly filled, but we can always improve. They're available. You can see them on the portal. So you just have to call to book that tee time, but you can see the tee times whether or not they're filled or not. So first hour or first hour and a half of the morning on a single tee, those are available. Yes. Okay. Fair enough.
Okay, well, nothing further from the committee, and we have nothing online. Mr. Bozak.
Gary Bosak, 102585 again. I think most of you probably have seen in the e-news weekly email the announcement of a fellow named George Dillon who got 2 holes in 1 in a round a few weeks ago. And in the hoopla of that 67 million to 1 accomplishment, someone else in the room has beaten the 12,000 to 1 odds of a golfer ever getting a hole in 1. Anybody want to guess who that is? Vanessa? I know, March 30th at Desert Trails. 12,000 to 1 that the golfer will get at odds. Congratulations. Didn't want it to go unnoticed.
All righty, thank you very much. I'll just kind of wrap this up with, we will be following up next month with follow-up to the ball machine with some potential cost estimates, and look forward to hearing what you've got to say about the furniture. And then we'll also get the 9-hole revenue for the tee times. With that being said, that actually completes our business of today. Our next meeting will, Okay, I'll stop right there.
Tom Wohlgemuth, 112417. It was brought to my attention I did not witness this myself, but I've brought to my attention that there are some people that are bringing their electric golf carts with extension cords and plugging them in at the golf courses. And the issue, I think, is the extension cord running across the patio. And I think somebody just needs to take a look at that, and I don't think that's something we want having done. Deer Valley on that. And I played today, and a guy in my group had a hole-in-one. Wasn't me.
All righty, well, I wrapped up what we're going to look forward to next month, and our next meeting is May 8th, 1:30 in this room. And seeing no other comments from anyone, we will call this meeting adjourned at 2:47. Thank you. Thank you for attending.